So, first question. How exactly does testosterone make us feel better mentally? Has it anything to do with raising serotonin, dopamine, and so on?
Yeah, so the neurotransmitter, and primarily there are several, as you just mentioned, two of them. The neurotransmitters that are produced and primarily work in the brain on the neurons are specifically related to overall mood, well-being, and a sense of, excitement or depression and whatnot. So there's actually, when it comes to some of the benefits of testosterone therapy, a lot of the guys always say, well, not only am I feeling a little bit better overall, but, my sexual desires have increased. And from the studies that I've looked at, the three neurotransmitters that are directly responsible for male libido are dopamine, serotonin, and glutamate. And there are studies showing direct correlation between testosterone administration in rats and elevated levels of the three neurotransmitters that I just mentioned. And I'm not sure that there is a full understanding of the exact pathway by which testosterone increases these. There is an understanding of why it is an inverse reaction, whereas an increase in dopamine does increase testosterone, and that likely plays a role on the HPTA and the pituitary release because GnRH from the hypothalamus um, has been shown to increase with increased or elevated levels of dopamine. So administering dopamine agonists has shown up to a 67% increase in serum testosterone levels in rat studies. Now, that does not necessarily mean that an increase in testosterone will have that inverse effect, but it does because when they did a study with rats that were castrated, and those rats showed significant loss in libido and a disinterest in any physical activity, they essentially became dormant. They went and they tested their dopamine levels, and they were completely reduced. And then they went ahead and they administered exogenous testosterone, and all of a sudden they became interested in sexual activity and they became more active. And then when they went and they checked their neurotransmitter levels, those had increased as well. So again, I'm not sure there's a mechanism of action that is fully understood as to why testosterone elevates neurotransmitters. I have looked not only at the abstract of these studies, but I've read a little deeper into them, and I've tried to kind of gauge where exactly in the physiological phase within the brain is the neurotransmitter activity stimulated by testosterone. And I'm not sure if I missed it or if the studies simply don't know the answer, but there is definitely a direct correlation as these studies showed, and I've read three of them recently. So the short answer is we know anecdotally via case studies with patients hands-on that yes, testosterone improves mood, well-being, and sexual desire. From a scientific standpoint, we can assess that the neurotransmitters are certainly being impacted. And we know that people who are on antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication, which specifically tend to stimulate or regulate the serotonin levels, because serotonin is a tricky one. Unlike dopamine, where it is kind of like that reward, feel-good hormone, serotonin kind of has to find a happy medium because too much serotonin can totally kill the ability to ejaculate. It can totally ruin your mood or cause depression, anxiety, and then you can have similar reactions with too little. So serotonin is one of those tricky ones that kind of has to find a balance, which is why selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors kind of don't work on inhibiting serotonin production. They kind of in a way, kind of control the traffic by which it is taken up from the synapse into the neurons. But those are known to create sexual side effects because their goal there is to relieve anxiety and depression first and foremost. And then one of the side effects is that your other neurotransmitter benefits are going to take a back seat. So I know they're often prescribed for people with premature ejaculation because of the onset of delayed orgasm as a result of taking them. So when you do take testosterone therapy, we've noticed a lot of guys tend to come off, medications like Prozac, Wellbutrin, and whatnot, because they do tend to start feeling better. And I would correlate that directly to an improvement in overall relationship between the neurotransmitters in their brain.
Okay, so testosterone could be considered as a natural antidepressant.
In a sense, that would be a way I guess you can put it. The problem is that, again, as with anything, we know that guys who take too much testosterone often report anxiety. And we know that if you look at teenagers, right, when they spike at puberty, male teenagers, right, adolescents who go through puberty, and then all of a sudden their testosterone spikes, oftentimes hit depression pretty damn hard, right? I mean, a lot of the suicidal thoughts and the mental issues that arise in adolescence usually comes around the time of puberty. Now, it could be confusion, it could be a rapid spike in various sex hormones, but oftentimes it is probably related to a drastic change. So the reason I hesitated in just saying yes to that is because it can be, if done correctly and cautiously. It could also go against you if it's done irresponsibly or too much. There is such thing as too much of a good thing as well, as we know.
Sure, thanks.